We're back with Rob Pincus, and before we left, he was talking to us about some kind of.
I gotta shut my computer off, man.
I thought I was going through a case of vertigo for a second.
I mean, she's just chilling out. I gotta show that off.
Look, just so peaceful. I miss those days. I mean, they were a long time ago, but. Okay, so now before we went to break, you were telling us about I believe a medical pack.
Yeah, just talking about carrying medical gear. A lot of people have realized how important and vital this stuff is on an everyday basis, whether it's a traffic accident, somebody has a slip and a fall, somebody goes down the stairs, breaks their leg, it gets cut seriously in the kitchen. Just the idea of being able to stop blood flow, keep somebody alive, and obviously gunshot wound trauma, active shooter response, things like that. We've become a lot more aware of how important this kind of stuff is.
Yeah.
So when I hear people talk about, what they carry, their everyday carry, and they pull out the super cool, awesome carbon knife, and they pull out the, tactical pen and a flashlight and, the super custom, awesome, flared gold barrel, whatever, $500 gun you turned into a $3,500 gun. It's like, well, wait a minute. Do you have a tourniquet? Do you have, you medical training? You've got $10,000 worth of gear in that photo, but how many classes have you taken in the last 2 years? To me, I think sometimes the priority becomes about the tool and not about the application of your skills or even possessing the skills. And obviously the tool that we harp on the most, and the tool that can be the most efficient, the most important lifesaver and life defender, is the firearm. Yeah. But it's not the only option. And that's, I think, the message I try to bring to the people thinking about gun-free zones is politically, I'm against them.
Yeah.
Logically, they make no sense. Practically, they don't help anybody.
Yeah.
But they also shouldn't distract us so much that we act as if we're not safe or we can't live our lives without having a gun on all the time.
Right. I think there's always going to be a balancing act between the kind of more lifestyle component and the practicality of the tools and the gears that we use. And to be honest, it's so much more fun to engage in the equipment side of things, the tool. Let's jazz up our Glocks and all of those things. I think those things are great. I do it ad nauseum. But you're right. I think they're it's easy to then get kind of so absorbed in that world of it that we don't necessarily bring it back full circle to the practicality and the actual effectiveness of what it is that we're doing, like the inherent purpose of it.
Right.
It's great. It's great to have a beautiful looking car, that does all of these fancy things, and I lust over and gush over cars all day long. But at the end of the day, my car still needs to work, and I still need to know how to drive that car effectively. There's no point.
I'm going to complain about the limiter on my car, but guess what? 155 miles an hour.
Yeah,
unless I'm taking it to the track, I'm not taking my wife's daily driver to the track. So
yeah.
Theoretically, I'm with you, right? Like I have overkill on my my truck, my off-road capability. I drive around on the interstates from class to class most of the time. Like I said, the car at home, I can take the limiter off and get it up to 180. But where am I going to do that legally or safely, or when is that appropriate with the car that she needs to take the kids to school tomorrow in? But it's awesome. I love cars. I love guns. I like the knives. I get it. Yeah. But I like the training. I like the knowledge. I like the confidence. I like the ability to live my life and go see places and go do things with friends and family that may not be gun people and may not care about that sign that's posted on the door or that city that they can't carry legally in. That to me is more important. And feeling safe when I'm doing it is about awareness, about all the things we talk about. Awareness, conflict avoidance, de-escalation, verbal skills, empty hand skills, being able to understand how to use improvised tools, things you can carry in those places. The hooked wooden cane is a classic one. Even if they take your cane away, everybody sees them at TSA at the airports. They've got a bunch of hooked wooden canes. Well, if you learn how to stick fight, you know how to use one of those. So you don't have to have a limp. You can carry one around, and you go into the Museum of Natural History in New York, they're going to give you a different one. You go through an airport, they're going to give you a different one as you go through security. You can't hide a knife in it. You're not carrying a gun, rifle cane. It's a stick.
So are you basically telling everybody they should become Morgan from The Walking Dead?
Well, that's an option. Wire wrap, right? He's the guy for wire wrap, right?
Yeah, I mean, I gotta be honest with you. I'm actually for it, man. When I was growing up, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Donatello was my favorite.
There you go.
So, if anybody who knows anything about Teenage Mutant,
right.
they should get
like
that. Yeah.
Donatello, Leonardo, where you're going to have a stick that turns into a sword. You can't do that. That's going to get you covered.
Yep. No. I'm absolutely all there with you. It's definitely something that we as I think one of the biggest catalysts though for people being able to hit that point where they start trying to really kind of create that balance between practicality and essentially their, super tunnel vision when it comes to just building up a tool, is taking a course.
Yeah.
It's easy. Now, granted, it's easy for me to say that. I'm in a position where I can take courses left and right. But for people who are in a position to, even if it's just one, take a course. Because what it does is it changes your entire perspective on how you have things set up. And I know every time I take a course, depending on what platform I took that course on, I come back and I completely change something about the tool that I use for that. Just because you start to understand the implications of it in a real world setting, so to speak, or outside of the vacuum of my mind, or theoretical situations.
A lot of it has to do with what course you take, obviously. You asked earlier about the Personal Defense Network training tour. We've got Andrew Branca doing legal stuff on the tour. We've got Craig Douglas doing the extreme close quarters, combining unarmed with armed skills. Mike Seeklander and I focus on the pistol and the rifle. We've got Cecil Birch doing purely unarmed stuff. There's a bunch of other guys doing a lot of different things. Caleb Causey from down there in Texas, he's doing medical stuff. So it really is. It's not just a course. It's really, I think people need to look at their skill set, look at their needs, find out where their weaknesses are, and then start looking at what options are there. And I'm with you. I get it. It's real easy to say. I always tell people, they look at the tuition number and they say, wow, that's a lot of money, $500 for a 2-day course. But the fact is, you can't step on that range if you haven't spent $1,500 or more by the time you pay the tuition, you have minimal gear, the ammo, time away from your family. It adds up. And that's one of the reasons we have the online courses. We do the distance education. I've got the counter ambush home study kit. We've got legal stuff, the interactions with law enforcement class, the fundamentals of defensive shooting class. And you're not going to learn how to shoot from watching a distance education course. It takes you 8 hours and costs $30. But what you are going to do is have a much better foundation. If you can't do the $2,000 weekend, you can go out and use your practice time much more effectively and efficiently. And you're going to have I think you're going to have a better idea of what you're supposed to be doing. You don't just walk out there in a vacuum and try to be a target shooter or go out there in a vacuum and just focus on competition shooting. You really get some context. And there's so many instructors out there doing some really good stuff with books, DVDs, and now at PDN Academy, we have full-on distance education where you do notebooks and you do coursework and you watch the videos and you read the articles. And I'm really proud of being able to bring that to people because it's a big difference spending $30 online and investing a weekend or a few weeknights versus that multi-$1,000 trip to go train with the guru you saw on some TV show. And I love the hundreds of students I'm going to hang out with during the tour every year, but I also respect the many, many thousands of people that won't be able to take that opportunity.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that the most important thing you said is it's not necessarily the case that you're gonna go through this course or watch a video and then walk away a shooting ninja, but the tools that you learn, that is the most important thing because, like you said, it creates that foundation that you can start to build on, and that is what I usually walk away from when I walk away from a course that I've taken. That's what I walk away with. Most of the stuff, shooting's perishable in a sense. Me shooting for 3 days isn't going to turn me into a superstar. However, the information that was imparted to me, which can also be imparted by different avenues, whether it be an instructor face-to-face, over internet, online, radio, whatever the case may be, it can fundamentally change the way you approach your entire setup and the idea of carrying a firearm or whatever, or just self-defense and safety all around. And take it somebody who has the ability and has been blessed with the capability of taking different courses. It's invaluable. It's incredibly invaluable, even if it's just one course.
Yeah, it does change your perspective. And I tell guys, you're going to come spend 2 days on the range with me. If you never practice the physical skills again, they're going to go away. Yeah. We could stand on the range and practice one thing 1,000 times with 1,000 pounds, and you'll get pretty good at it. Yeah. But 6 months later, if you haven't practiced, most of that's going to go away. Yeah. On the other hand, that 5-minute lecture I did on holster positioning, or the 10 minutes we talked about, the context of appropriate defensive use of a firearm, that you have forever. That's intellectual information that you can apply to, as you said, gear selection, your setup, your practice, your training for the rest of your life, and you can share it with your family, you can share it with your friends. You don't become an instructor because you went to the class, but you might become the most knowledgeable person in the room the next time people are talking about, what they saw on YouTube, and you spent 2 days out on the range with somebody. You become an asset to everybody you want to influence too.
Absolutely. But it was definitely, man, I hate when this happens because I start to get all in the conversation and stuff, and then I look up and I see, oh man, our time is running out. but I thank you for joining us, man. It's always a pleasure having you on the show. Hope it's isn't the last time. Good luck with your tour.
Thanks, man.
I think it's about time. I think it's overdue. We need to link up, and I definitely need to take one of your courses because I think that's overdue. But
I'll be back in Texas in the fall. So Texas is not one of the states on the tour, but I'll be back. I was down there last month in Fort Worth. I'll be back down in the Fort Worth area, and I think in the Houston area in the fall. So hopefully we'll get you in a class.
Absolutely. I'm all for it.
Cool, man. We'll talk before then.
Okay. Will do. Thank you very much, man. I appreciate it.
Take care.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us today on Seeing Live. We'll see you again tomorrow at 5 p.m. Eastern on NRA TV. I'm Colion Noir. And I'm out.